We start this Tuesday afternoon as we get to 4 o'clock with developing news in the death of Breonna Taylor. Today from Kentucky, a former Louisville police detective pleading guilty to a federal conspiracy charge.
Kelly Goodlett helped falsify the warrant that led to the deadly police raid on Taylor's apartment back in March of 2020. Prosecutors say Goodlett also conspired with another former detective, Joshua Janes, to cover it up. Goodlett appeared in a federal court in Louisville this afternoon and admitted to conspiring to falsify that warrant. Taylor was shot to death by officers who knocked down her door while executing that warrant. Goodlett's sentencing is scheduled for November. 2 other officers have also been charged in the FBI's investigation.
And now back to here in Colorado and an unpleasant backyard discovery. It came to a woman in West Wash Park where she found a black widow spider. That's not too unusual on its own. Then her neighbors started finding more and more and more of those black widows.
Apparently, it's a banner year for this venomous spider, which is not anything we'd love to share, but we thought we should share. 9 News reporter Cole Sullivan is joining us now, and to tell us, first of all, that right now creeps out on other people, but what can you do?
Well, and Kim, you're right. Some folks, you get the creepy crawlies just from thinking about the legs and the eyes and the spiders. For some folks, the very thought of it can make your skin crawl, right? But other folks say that there's a spider scientist, here in Denver, says there are more of the black widows this season than she's heard about in a long time.
Anywhere that the spider could hide out during the day.
The calls keep coming in for Josh Hutchinson.
Really busy. Scheduled about every half hour.
Calls from worried homeowners.
I really don't care for them.
Concerned about black widow spiders in their yards.
Finding one, not a big deal.
But then Allison Toppin started hearing from neighbors in West Wash Park, and post after post with story after story about finding the venomous spiders.
Yeah.
The family next door found half a dozen on their back porch.
It's not just my milk box.
Pull out one of the
Paula Cushing doesn't
trays.
mind spiders.
This is just a portion of the spiders of the black widows that are in our collections.
She studies them at the Museum of Nature and Science.
It's been a really good year for whatever reason for black widow population.
She's not sure why, but says the widows seem to be everywhere this year. Not a reason for concern, especially if they're outside.
If you find them in the home, yeah, get rid of them, put them outside, kill them, whatever.
The spiders typically avoid people, she says, so bites are rare and rarely deadly.
But basically for this treatment, we go all around the foundation of the house.
Hutchinson has noticed more spiders lately, too.
Black widows have been kind of heightening up in the last 2 years.
Soon, it's on to the next call and another spray to keep the spiders at bay. Again, that spider scientist says they're rarely cause for concern and are practically everywhere in Colorado anyway, so you don't need to worry about them too much, she says. This year, there just seem to be a lot.
So the question is, what's creepier is seeing them or just understanding they're there and not knowing where they are?
Well, they're nocturnal, too, so they're out at night while you're sleeping. They're doing their thing.
And okay, because so many times, I think there's just something to that title, Black Widow. Even as a kid, you hear that and you go, and you said rarely deadly, but how determine what is a black widow versus just a normal icky spider?
Well, she says they've got that red hourglass on them. That's a pretty good determining, and they're rarely deadly, but she says they're going to hurt like heck if you get bitten by one. Yeah.
And they bite what? When they feel threatened?
Yeah, so the idea is they're mostly more scared of us than we are of them, so they'll run away if you kind of brush up against the web or something like that. The only time that they'll really bite, she says, is when you kind of trap one in a way where it's up against a wall or something and it's only got you to bite to get out of there.
I get it, though. I'm as scared of us as I am of them.
You are? I know.
I don't know. I'm more scared of the spiders.
And this is also mating season, right? Or no, this is when the black widows are ready to lay.
Yeah, the female are starting to grow larger, and we're spending more time outside because the weather is nicer in the evenings.
But never comment on the size of a black widow female, their weight.
No,
they'll bite you then.
They'll bite you then
totally.
for sure.
Not say a thing.
Offensive.
Good tips. Okay. I'm kind of an amateur arachnidologist.
Yeah, apparently.
We were talking about the tarantulas too. They migrate down in southeastern Colorado.
I just didn't realize it was this time of the year for black widows.
This time you might notice them more outside.
Okay. Cole, I think I want to thank you, but I'm glad you let us know.
You're
it's
welcome
part of your
anyway.
job. Thank you. All right.
We swing back to some other news now, including from Texas, where an Uber driver now has become the first person confirmed to have died in the recent flooding there.
She was a 60-year-old woman on her way home after giving a ride yesterday when her car was swept off a bridge. This happened in Mesquite. That's a suburb east of Dallas. That's where the storms kind of went. Police say that she was on the phone with her husband and she was begging for help as the water was rising inside her vehicle, and then the call was disconnected. He rushed to help her. Fire officials says he was there as well as loved ones searching when the rescue crews arrived, and they were only able to find the car after the waters receded, revealing a tire of the upside-down car under another bridge downstream. Dallas has not seen rain and flooding like this since the 1930s. Today, the governor of Texas signed a disaster declaration for 23 counties. That will free up resources as those counties deal with the aftermath of the flooding. All that rain is now headed east, threatening Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
Kathy's with us now talking about our weather. You can see some gray clouds now forming off to the west. But Kathy, we've been talking a lot about extreme weather, not just in Dallas and other places, whereas for us, while we have had some rain recently with the monsoon, it's been a quiet storm season.
Don't jinx us, Tom.
Yeah, it's true.
No, because Mother Nature will do what she wants, as you know. It is a beautiful afternoon out there, and each and every afternoon we go from sunshine to cloud cover and we get a stray thunder shower moving through, and that's kind of the trend that we're seeing for tonight. Outside, we've got partly sunny skies looking west toward the Fort Collins area. No rain along the Front Range as of yet. An isolated storm is certainly possible in areas like Boulder, along with thunder and lightning. So if you're hiking or walking tonight, be mindful of that. 85 in Denver this hour, 89 in Lamar, 92 in Grand Junction, and 70s in the high country. Moisture values coming down a bit, but steering winds aloft over the higher terrain mean any storms that develop will be slow moving. Storms coming in across the west are actually dropping to the south. We have east to southeast winds here at the surface. A new flash flood warning has gone out for Larimer County in and around the Cameron Peak burn scar. We've had a couple inches of rain there and additional showers moving through Kremling, Vale, and down toward the Fairplay area. A little thunder and lightning as well. I think I've got Denver dry for tonight. We'll have a few clouds coming through. Brief shower possible in Jefferson County, up in Park County, but here in the city, mid-80s until after sunset, then we'll drop into the 70s. In Maine weather coming up, we're going to track those evening storms with a radar update for you and talk about Denver's warming and drying trend, and then look out ahead to the upcoming weekend and give that forecast in detail. That's just ahead.
Thanks, Kathy. RTD has a new police chief. Dr. Joel Fitzgerald was sworn in at a ceremony at Union Station this morning.
And this becomes his 5th job as a police chief. The last one was in Iowa. Fitzgerald coming to RTD from Waterloo, where he'd been the chief since May of 2020. And before that, he'd held the top job at departments in Missouri City, Texas, Allentown, PA, and Fort Worth. Fitzgerald, of course, taking the helm of a tumultuous time for RTD. Earlier this year, Denver police increased patrols in the bus terminal at Union Station after an uptick in crime and drug use there. Fitzgerald, though, says he's been walking around in plain clothes over these past few days, talking with passengers and others around the RTD properties. They've told him they want to see more of a police presence.
If we can change the perception of what goes on RTD to totally positive, we can get community support, and we can stop some of the things from happening on trains and on light rail and bus, it'll be a huge success.
RTD police work in tandem with contract security as well as police departments in each of the jurisdictions that the transit agency serves, which includes Denver, Aurora, and Lakewood. Today, the U.S. State Department has a warning for any Americans that are still living in Ukraine. They say leave immediately. The department is afraid of an escalation of Russian attacks ahead of Ukraine's Independence Day, which is tomorrow. Tomorrow will also mark 6 months since the start of the war, and the intense shelling is still going on in many parts of the country. And in Wisconsin, one community now marking 2 years since a police-involved shooting that garnered much national attention.
On August 23, 2020, a Kenosha police officer shot Jacob Blake 7 times while on a call about a domestic incident. The shooting left Blake paralyzed from the waist down. It also led to protests and riots in Kenosha. The Kenosha Area Business Alliance reports 100 businesses were damaged or destroyed during 3 nights of unrest. A law enforcement investigation ruled the officer was justified in his use of force. A Trump ally is offering a clear insight into what the documents the former president took with him to Mar-a-Lago.
So this letter from the National Archives was posted online, and it says more than 100 classified documents, adding up to some 700 pages, were initially retrieved from Trump's Florida home. That was back in January. The letter confirms among the documents were some of the government's most classified information, ones that should only be viewed in a secure government facility. The archives then gave those materials to the intelligence community, trying to determine if the handling of the documents could have put our country at risk. The full text of that letter was posted late yesterday to a website run by John Solomon, a writer also serving as a Trump liaison to the archives, trying to review the papers from his presidency. The letter fills out the timeline of the Trump team's talks with the archives in the months between the January retrieval and then the FBI securing that warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Well, disability rights groups are battling Lyft for wheelchair-accessible vehicles.
Advocates are not looking for any payout. Instead, just asking Lyft to make sure drivers with wheelchair-accessible vehicles reach riders. They hope this can be done by both allowing drivers to categorize their vehicles as WAVs and turn off app blockers, preventing riders from selecting the company's accessible ride option in non-access regions. Lyft says this is exempt. They are exempt from the Americans with Disabilities Act, adding it does not have to cater to people with non-folding wheelchairs. The Biden administration seems to be leaning towards canceling up to $10,000 in student loan debt for every borrower. There is a catch. You have to earn less than $125,000 a year.
And the president's plan might be announced as soon as tomorrow, with sources reporting that White House officials are looking at offering additional forgiveness for some other borrowers as well. Still no details on that proposal yet. The current pause on federal student loan payment is set to expire a week from tomorrow on August 31st.